Most of us assume that starting an e-commerce business is difficult. Of course, it is difficult, but not as difficult as you would expect. In 2018, I started an online bookstore called Jumpbooks.lk. I had zero experience when I started it. Today, it's the #1 rated online bookstore in Sri Lanka and has served over 15,000 customers. Looking back, I realized that most of us are afraid of starting a business because we don't know what it takes. How to decide what to sell? How are you going to find a supplier? Do you need a website or not? Should you register a business? What about shipping and packaging? If you are curious about building a small e-commerce business, something that you can get started from your home, this video is for you. I'm going to share 9 steps you need to consider before starting your online business. By the time you reach the end, you'll get answers to most of your questions and you'll have a clear roadmap to follow. Let's get started. How to decide what to sell? The first step is finding a product to sell. This is where most of us get stuck. There are so many products to choose from. Here are several things to consider when deciding what to sell. Your relationship to the product. I launched an online bookstore because I was passionate about books. I love reading and I love books. That naturally gave me an advantage because I know the best sellers and the most requested books. I see people trying to sell random products that they are not passionate about or excited about to sell and eventually give up. While it is important to find a trending product, if you are not enthusiastic about solving that business problem, I don't think you'll be successful in the long run. Next, you need to consider the size of your product. Don't select something too large and heavy because managing your inventory and shipping will be exhausting. Perishability. Don't choose a perishable product. It should have a long shelf life. Otherwise, the products will expire before you have time to sell. Next is fragileness. Don't sell products that can easily get damaged when shipping. You'll have a nightmare with returns and refunds. Availability. Select a product that's not readily available in the market. If the product is easily accessible and readily available, you'll have a hard time convincing customers to choose your business. Those are some of the things you need to consider when selecting a product. Next is the research phase. Start by looking at best-selling products in marketplaces like Amazon or eBay and Etsy. Look at AliExpress and Alibaba. What are the most trending products? Are there any products that might work in your market? You can also check tools like Google Trends. Type in a keyword and find out how it has been trending over the past. If you are familiar with keyword research, you can check the search volume for a particular product. You don't necessarily have to research if you already know what you want to sell. Maybe you like fashion and clothing, or you are great at creating handmade cards. Then you already know what you want to sell. When I started my online bookstore, everybody I spoke to told me not to do it. They said, "Who reads books these days? Why should I buy a physical book when I can easily download an ebook or an audiobook?" But I knew that there was a gap in the market because I was struggling to find books that I wanted to read, and I had a feeling that there were others like me. So don't ignore your gut. The next step is figuring out how to source your product. There are several ways you can go about it. Manufacturing your own products. If you plan to sell something only you can create, you can manufacture it yourself. Example products can be handmade stuff, like things you can buy on Etsy. The second method is buying from a wholesaler. This is what every retailer does. They purchase products at a wholesale discount and resell to customers. This is easier than other methods because you are buying a product that's already selling in the market, but there'll be other sellers who are selling the same product. The next option is private labeling. Some manufacturers are willing to include your labeling and branding in their products. This is what popular store brands like Amazon Basics or Walmart do. They find a manufacturer and add their label and branding. Next time when you're at a supermarket, check out the product labels of some products. In most cases, you'll see 2 companies listed. One is the manufacturer and the other is the marketing or the importing company. You can do the same. Hiring a manufacturer. Finally, if your product has a unique design, you can hire a manufacturer locally or internationally. The best example is clothing. You design a t-shirt and get it manufactured from a factory based in Sri Lanka. Finding a supplier isn't going to be easy. Start with a simple Google search. You can also look at websites like Alibaba, which feature wholesalers and manufacturers. Once you find a couple of prospects, reach out to them. Find out their cost. Is there a minimum order quantity? Can you buy some samples before placing an order? When you start to make those inquiries, you'll get answers to your questions. The first inquiry is the hardest. It gets easier over time. But there's one other thing you must do before jumping ahead and launching your business. Finding your first customer. You need to validate your product before setting up your website and registering your business, especially if it is a unique product or something that's not readily available in your market. Validating is making sure that there are potential customers who are willing to pay for your products. There are several ways to validate your product. The first method is trying to sell your product. Find some samples and see if you can sell them. You can list your product on the Facebook Marketplace or something similar. See if people are interested in buying and whether someone is willing to actually pay you. If you can't source samples, you can create a landing page or a simple Google form. Add some details about the product and get people to subscribe to know when you launch your product. If you get a healthy amount of inquiries, there is a need in the market. That's another method. Now, what if you are planning to sell a product that's already in the market? Then you can skip this step. But I'd still recommend you to do it because once you have your first customer and when you make your first sale, you are going to change forever. You will have tangible evidence that you are capable of doing this. This is very important. I still remember the first book I sold. It was the $100 Startup by Chris Guillebeau. I drove and delivered it myself. That's what convinced me that I could do this. The next step is creating a website. You don't necessarily need an e-commerce website to sell a product online. You can use marketplaces such as Amazon, eBay, Etsy, or even Facebook Marketplace. There are perks to selling on marketplaces. You get access to an existing audience or customers. Getting started is easy because you don't have to create a website. You can easily list your products and get started. However, there are several limitations such as fees, commissions, and intense competition from other sellers. You don't have enough control over your brand. You can't customize the store to your liking. Another problem is not having direct access to your customers. When you are in a marketplace, they own the customer data. You don't have a direct relationship with your customers. That's why I prefer having my own e-commerce website. As most of us think creating an e-commerce website isn't that difficult. In 2018, I created an e-commerce website from following a YouTube tutorial. I know hundreds who have done the same. Unlike in the past, you don't have to hire a website developer and build a custom website. Today, there are e-commerce website builders built for non-coders just like you and me. Without any coding skills, you can create stunning websites. When deciding which website builder to use, there are several choices. Since this video is for someone who will start a small e-commerce business, I recommend two platforms. That's WooCommerce and Shopify. They are the most widely used platforms as of now. I'm not going to go into details about these platforms. You can find plenty of tutorials on YouTube about WooCommerce and Shopify. But I'll give you some pointers to make your decision easier. I have used both Shopify and WooCommerce in the past. Based on my experience, both are easy to use, although WooCommerce requires a bit of learning. If you are just starting out and don't want to spend a lot, I recommend starting with WooCommerce. It's going to be really cheap to create a WooCommerce website using WordPress. My e-commerce store is also based on WooCommerce. However, if you are serious about your business and have plans to expand, try Shopify. Shopify is built for e-commerce and a lot of popular brands in the world use Shopify. But keep in mind that Shopify can get expensive for a beginner. I'll include some resources in the description if you want to learn more about these platforms. The next step is registering your business. The legal requirements can differ based on where you live, and you may not necessarily have to register your business. But despite where you are, there are benefits to registering your business. For example, if you want to get a payment gateway to accept online payments for your business, there's a good chance that you might need a business registration. Let's say you want to import a product. Then you need an import license, which requires a business registration. When I imported my first shipment, my business wasn't registered and I had to pay a hefty fine to release it. That's how little I knew about running a business. If you are serious about starting a business, I recommend registering your business. Do it now and you'll thank me later. Next step is figuring out how to get paid online. Most of us assume that getting paid online is complicated. It's actually not. All you have to do is register with an online payment provider such as PayPal or Stripe. If you choose a platform like Shopify, they have an inbuilt payment gateway. With WooCommerce, you can use almost all the popular payment methods. When choosing a payment gateway, the first thing you need to consider is the fees. Find out how much each payment provider charges per transaction and choose whatever that works best for you. The next thing to consider is the payout cycle. Once a payment gateway captures a payment, when do they credit that to your bank account? If payment providers such as PayPal or Stripe are unavailable in your country, find the most popular payment providers based on where you live. Next, you need to register with them. When you have a registered business, signing up with a payment provider will be a piece of cake. Once you sign up, you should be able to install a plugin or an app to your Shopify or WooCommerce store. Once it's connected, you can start accepting online payments. Next, let's look at packaging. If you are selling a product, you need to consider packaging. The package you decide depends on your product. Are you selling something fragile? What is the size of your product? Do you sell products in different sizes? Next, you need to consider the material for the package. Do you want your package to be sustainable and recyclable? Or do you want the cheapest possible material? Whenever I order something online, the first thing I do is examine the package. What sort of materials have they used? What type of branding do they have on the package? How have they secured the product? Another thing that you should consider is branding. Unlike in a physical store, you can't create an experience for the customer in an online business because you don't meet them. The only physical interaction they have is when receiving your product. Use your creativity to delight your customers. You can write your brand story in the package. You can offer them a free gift or a coupon for their next purchase. That'll get them to fall in love with your brand. Next, you need to figure out how you will ship your products. Finding a carrier for your online business mainly depends on where you can get the best rate. Talk to popular carriers and find out their rates. You'll have to figure out things like whether you're going to offer free shipping or charge a flat rate. This will depend on your product and the industry. You must also consider how their services will be integrated to your store. Most of them have online portals and plugins that would integrate with popular website builders. Find out the process of printing packing labels and how collections work from your warehouse as well. The next step is marketing your store. How should you think about marketing? You can look at marketing in two steps. First step is attracting visitors to your website. Because if no one is visiting your website, how would anyone buy things from you? You can use SEO, social media and paid ads to attract users to your website. The second step is figuring out how to retain your customers once they make a purchase. How do you get them to buy not just once but continuously? For that, you can use email marketing and SMS marketing. Marketing an e-commerce website is a big subject and there are so many things you can do. I'll do a separate video in the future. Right, that's the last step in your journey to create an e-commerce website. When I started my online bookstore, I didn't know about any of them. I decided what I'm going to sell, then I looked for suppliers, then I registered my business and I kept going. You don't need to have a business proposal that outlines the next 10 years of your business. That's not the way real people build real businesses. Business proposals are for university professors who have never built a business. All you need is to believe in yourself that you'll figure out as you go along. As long as you know the next step, you'll be fine. My goal was not to tell you exactly how to create an e-commerce website because that's impossible, but hopefully I have cleared some of the doubts and questions you had in mind. The rest is up to you. That's it for now. If you're thinking of starting a small business or have already started one, make sure to subscribe to my channel, and if you want to learn the 13 mistakes I made while running my e-commerce business, check out this video. Until next time, keep crushing it.